identity. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. I got to tell you, as we were talking before the show, there isn't that much research on Afro-Latinos. So we really scoured high and low, and I think we got a great panel. Let's talk a little bit about, is there a difference between the way the West Coast reacts to Afro-Latinos and the East Coast? Who's lived in the East Coast?
I am.
Oh, you all have? Right. Okay, so let's open it up.
Well, actually, I was born in New York. And
New York.
In Brooklyn.
In Brooklyn.
And I'm actually new to Los Angeles. I moved out here in September.
Welcome.
Thank you. And what's really interesting is the whole concept of Afro-Latino was something that I just didn't encounter for people here, you know. I mean, they didn't really understand that, yes, I could speak Spanish. My parents are from Central America, and that, you know, if you're talking about me on the bus, I'd understand what you were saying. And in New York, that wasn't even an issue. You were Dominican, you were Cuban, you were Panameño, you were,
Puerto
you know,
Rican.
Tica, you were Puerto Rican. It didn't matter.
Is that your experience, gentlemen?
We were talking about it in the green room, because in Los Angeles, the perception of Caribbean people, if they're black, they tend to be Cuban.
Right.
But if you only focus in Cuba, then you're ignoring like 90% of the Caribbean. It includes, you know, Brazil, Venezuela, Colombia, Honduras, Panama. But for the most part, the perception here, I think it's a little bit less sophisticated than in New York, where if you're black, you could be Panamanian, you could be Dominican, you could be Jamaican. And I was talking with one, and we were mentioning why did you think that it was more focused on Cuba here on the West Coast?
Because Cuba is the only island who sent 130,000 black people in one time out of the Cuba.
So you think it's a politics?
Was that in the 50s?
No, that's in the 80s.
Oh, in the 80s. Why did they do that?
Well, because the situation in Cuba get desperate, and young people like me, we want to see something else.
So is that when you left?
Yes, that's when I
Oh,
left.
so you've resided in Cuba until the 1980s.
80, and I came in because I
Hay que
heard...
platicar despuesito, mano.
Yeah.
You hear so many, don't you hear rumors about Cuba? You hear everything from, it's great, everyone loves it, to it's falling apart.
You know, I mean, I don't like politicians.
Yeah.
I'm a musician, I'm a sportman, you know what I mean? So my words make people happy. That's like I said, when I'm in Cuba, I'm a Cuban person. And when I get in Los Angeles, California, because in New York, I'm a Cuban. I live in the Bronx, in the Grand Concourse, right there, when all the brothers in the
mero.
You know what I mean?
And
so
he also lives in Puerto Rico, no?
And I live in Puerto Rico, and I stay be Cuba. But when I get in Los Angeles, I start to be Afro-Cuba.
Omar, you deal with models, and people of color are being seen more and more on the covers. When you meet Afro-Latinos, do you find that they mostly like come out and say, I'm Afro-Latino, once they find out you're Afro-Latino, or how do they present themselves? Because I know that here in the West, you've got to be something.
Yeah, they don't. They don't. A lot of the Afro-Latinos in this part of town, I think they live in denial.
No, you mean in Africa?
I personally have a problem with it, because I'm definitely 100% Latino. I'm more Latino than black. Yeah, I'm learning about this whole black thing, you know, like himself. You know, I came out here and, whoa, you're black.
Let's get right into it. We talked about...
Yeah, let's get into it.
You said that you think that the Afro-Americans here in L.A. are angry. You think an Afro-Latino is less angry or less dissatisfied or is a better self-conscious?
I don't think it's the Afro-Latinos in L.A. I think it's blacks in America.
Right.
Have a lot of turmoil and anger. I don't know if it's
and they don't also understand that most of the African Americans, the Africans in America, live in Latin America. Yeah. You know, the blacks that live in the United States are a minority in the United States. Most blacks in this hemisphere live in our countries.
Exactly. Well, you know, I think one thing that people need to know and understand is that blacks in Latin America, whether it's poor, rich, whatever, we truly have a great life. You know,
Right.
You know, I remember being
We'll be
in
back
Brazil.
with more from Cafe California. You
know,
got a great life?
Yeah.
Well, you do. You run a supermodeling agency.
Well, no, even